Hello, I'm Emma of Granola Gear, and I'm so excited to be chatting with you again today about what I have been knitting on lately. We're finally, I feel like, in a good cyclical place. I've got one pretty much finished project that I'm moving on from some of the things that were hanging on for a while, and I'm so happy, so happy. So I'm excited to show you what I cast on this week. Um, we'll start with what I'm wearing today. I'm wearing my Esther jacket by Petite Knit. Um, it is finally springtime here in Massachusetts, more or less. We've had some above 60-degree days, which is crazy. And this morning I was out and about, and instead of wearing a jacket, I wore this. It was almost 50 degrees, but bright and sunny and not too much wind. So it was perfect. A jacket, you might say, Esther jacket, you know? This is knit in the same yarn as her Petite Knit sample. So it's your Jensen and Highland wool. Very kindly gifted to me by my mother-in-law. So it was a special treat for me, not something I would have purchased otherwise. It's fun to have something really nice every once in a while. Because most of my knits are nice, don't get me wrong. And wool is wool at the end of the day, but it's cool to do something with some special yarn. So that is what I'm wearing. Now let's just get right into it. This first piece is kind of a finished object, but it still has a ways to go. But I cast off the knitting portion, and that is the Champagne pullover by Sari Nordland. This is knit in Jagerspun. I don't know how you say it. Mainline 3/8 in the color daffodil. And as I have mentioned many times, I don't really like the color yellow, at least this color yellow. So I cast this off. And I was kind of just so done with it because I didn't not enjoy knitting the texture, but it is just so much. And it was starting to take a long time because I had to knit my body a lot longer. So I usually like weave in my ends and block right away, but this has just been sitting there for a little bit because I needed like a mental timeout. As you can see, the top part is blocked, the bottom isn't. So I decided with this, because my gauge is a little bit under. This is a DK weight pattern, this is a DK weight yarn, but I probably should have sized up one on needles, but I don't remember if I gauge swatched or not. I think because it was coming out of one sweater and going into another sweater, because I originally knit this as the April cardigan, I was a little like, oh, it'll be fine. But I think I forgot that the April cardigan was knit on 4mm needles, and this was actually knit on 3.5, which I think is probably a little small, especially for something as open as this. It probably has to do partially with the difference between whatever yarn Sari you used and the yarn that I used. This is 100% wool. Not like super rustic. I'd say it compares like last podcast I was talking about the scale of like superwash merino to like a Jameson's Shetland wool as far as rusticness and how it feels. And this is right in the middle, right around like a Cascade 220 non-superwash. But it definitely has really good definition for this lace. The opened up lace on the top looks so much better than on the bottom. But what I'm going to do with this is, before I dye it, because I have said that I want to dye this red, I have the dye for it, the color Scarlet from Rit. Wow, there's like a black piece of fuzz running through the yellow and it's so obvious. Whatever, I'm ignoring that. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to block this out first, even though I am going to just soak it and dye it again right away, because I want to make sure 100% that like there's no additional mods that need to be done, because I'm just dyeing the whole sweater. And if I need to change something after that, it would not be good because it would all be one color, like a totally different color than the yarn. I'm going to block it super big, super wide, because this is not big enough. It's not super small. I don't know. I think I probably need to start sizing up on Sari's patterns. I usually knit the size small. I wear the size small in pretty much everyone's patterns, and that's the size that is supposed to work for me. But I found that most of them are like leaning on the side of too small. Like I'm making it work and it's fine, but I would prefer it to be a little bit bigger. So remind me next time I knit a Sari Nordland pattern, knit the size medium, not the size small. Or she does it in numbers. I've been knitting the size 2 and I need to knit the size 3, I guess. But yeah, the shoulder seam is a little tight on this one. I'm going to widen that. I had to knit mine way longer than hers, but I think generally I've found that I don't think even my gauge would have affected how significant the amount of length that I needed to add was, even if it was a little bit bigger, because my gauge isn't that off. I had to add, I mean, hers trying to do this so I don't bump my mic. Hers would have ended halfway through this repeat, like, and I added almost a full additional repeat of this big chart, which is a lot. But it also will hopefully make up for the fact that I'm gonna have to block it out wider because it'll lose a little length that way. For the bottom, I didn't do double knitting before I bound off with Italian bind off because I knew I was going to block it out really wide and I didn't want to be restricted by the double knitting. If this gets a lot wider, my cables are probably going to be not as square as hers, but I'll do my best when I block it, just to make it. I want to make it fit. And if making it fit means that it changes the way this looks a little bit, it is what it is. I'm also going to block the sleeves out a bit wider. Last time I was focusing on, when I did my like initial block, I was focusing on opening up the lace, but I'm less worried about that, the lace being perfect, and more worried about like having a sleeve that fits. I mean, this is a holey sweater anyways, obviously with all the lace. If this was something that was supposed to be more dense, I'd be more interested in frogging it and redoing it because I wouldn't want it to be flowy and drapey and whatever from getting super duper crazy blocked. But because this is already holey, it's okay if I block it out super wide and the stockinette is more holey. It is what it is. We're just trying to make it work. So that is this. I will show you this next time, hopefully all finished and dyed. I'm not going to try it on this week because it's not done. So that is my first, or that is my finished object. Now on to works in progress. The first one I have is my Dagmar jacket by Petite Knit. I finished one sleeve and I'm a good amount of the way through the other actually. So it's not a super long sleeve, so even though this doesn't look super far, it's pretty far. Just because it's such a big drop shoulder, I did actually give it a quick block, so it is pretty flat looking right now because I was slightly worried about the sleeve length. I just wanted to be really sure that it was enough before I started the second one, and it was. I managed to stop it in a good place with the cable too. Not too bad. I was kind of thinking that like maybe I wouldn't finish this season, but I think I will. Like once I'm through this second sleeve, like the body, because a drop shoulder is so low, I'm actually further along on the body than it looks. Even though I'm only a couple rows in, it won't be quite as long. It's just longer rows, but that's okay. This is Knit and Drops Alaska, a worsted weight yarn, 100% wool in the color dark gray. I really like it. A nice rustic sturdy yarn like this, good for a jackety sweater. I enjoy knitting with it. It's kind of hard on your hands to do the cables like with this yarn, but I think it looks good. I think the definition is nice. I wasn't expecting it obviously to like pop like crazy because I know it's a dark color, but I think it's working well and I'm a fan. Yeah, I can actually work on these sleeves pretty well while even just reading and not looking too hard at them with the moss stitch. Yeah, going well so far. No hiccups yet thus far again. So the next whip is one that I showed you last week that I cast on, and that is my Pressed Flowers shawl. This is a pattern by Savory Knitting. The DK weight pattern. I'm knitting it on 4mm needles, which also the Dagmar jacket is on 4.5mm needles. Sorry, I forgot that, or US 7. So this is on 4mm needles, and I'm knitting it with Bloom Woolen Yarns Solstice, which is 90% wool, 10% mohair. It's this beautiful purpley pink color. I'm obsessed. This is supposed to be a light DK, and I'm sure it will bloom when I block it because it is a very farmy yarn. It's like a local yarn, but it does feel a little lighter than that. There's sections of it that I make me go, oh yeah, this is definitely a DK. And then there are sections of it, like a lot more of it though, is more fingering weight. But I was a little worried because I'm knitting it with this unraveled sweater yarn that I'm holding double that's 100% wool, and it's a pretty shiny yarn. It's a very fluffy double. It is probably actually more of a worsted, or yeah, it's more of a worsted. And I was like, I don't know how this combo is going to go with one of them really light, one of them really heavy, but I think it's looking pretty good so far. My main color is obviously the white. My contrast color is the pink, and it's definitely thinner, but I mean, it's a shawl, and I actually like the way that the white is making up for the thinness of the pink with its kind of bouncy fullness, which is cool. I mean, this is going to take me a while, but I'm actually feeling pretty good about how much yarn I've used. Obviously, I'm not super far in, but this is like 350 yards, I think, about, and the contrast color you're supposed to use about 450. So this might be a little shorter, but I'm feeling okay so far, because I do not feel like I've used very much at all. So we'll see if I have to add another color at the end or if I can use all of this. But I'm really happy I've been able to get this far on this. I don't know, shawls get kind of boring, but this has been fun, and mosaic knitting has been fun. Um, it obviously grows really quickly at first, and then it gets slower and slower, as a triangle with progressive increases does, but I'm happy with it. It's a nice texture. It's cool. It's not too hot to work on. Not that it's been super duper warm yet, but it's such a pretty color. I love it. I love the flower motif. But yes, that is that. Next whip, this is a new cast on. I had put in my spring knitting plans video that right at the end I said maybe I'll cast on the Bergman sweater, maybe I'll cast on the Bergman sweater if I after these other things. But I was like, you know what? I have the pattern because the pattern was very kindly gifted to me by a viewer on Ravelry. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate the support. But I had the yarn for it already and I had it set aside. So I was like, I'm gonna go for it. We're just gonna cast it on and go for it. And so I actually have the whole color work portion of the yoke done. I still have a little ways to go in the rest of it. Trying to keep it from rolling down. I knit this pretty much all this weekend. I'm losing a few stitches. Oh no! Not that it matters too much. They'll stay. Ah! So this white is actually left over from my Esther jacket. I'm holding one strand of Jensen, which is a DK, with one strand of the Highland wool instead of two strands, and that gives me about a worsted, which is what this is. And it looks really nice so far. This is the green, is this beautiful olive color that I unraveled from an Abercrombie and Fitch hoodie sweater. It's 100% wool. It's a very like lofty, puffy yarn. It's so nice. It's like a little bit marled too. It's like got a little bit of a lighter olive color in there. And I think they look really good together. So my main color is the white. My main color is the olive. My contrast color is the white. I think it's looking really good so far. Worsted weight pattern. This is knit on 4mm needles. It's by Boylan Knitworks. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I'm a little all over the place today. Boylan Knitworks. What else? There's something I was going to say about this. I don't know. I do like that she has short rows up above the color work. I know it isn't everybody's favorite look, but I think it is a better fit, which I'm a fan of. The color work was pretty nice to knit because it's not crazy. It's very symmetrical. In my brain, I was like, oh, I won't have to catch many floats because these are all short. But like, then because you have these lines that go through the whole thing, I still would have to catch floats of green through all of the white. So there were no break rows where I was like, oh, I'm only knitting stockinette with one color. Like sometimes you get one of those in between stuff and you don't have to catch floats like crazy. But I minimized it because this is a pretty woolly yarn, so I think it'll stay together pretty well. Just for the really long ones that were like 7 or 8 stitches, that kind of thing. It's good to do a little bit of catching just to make sure. I think my tension's pretty good. This is like super duper dense. So we'll see what it's like when it blocks at the end. But this is a dense guy. I definitely have enough of the white to do the details on like the sleeves and stuff too. So I think I'll probably do that because there's a little bit of the kind of checkered look there too. But this is a cool project. I kind of cast it on because I was like, oh, once I get through the yoke, it'll be very stockinette-y. And I don't really have anything stockinette-y going on right now. And my other options for casting on were either another shawl that's all cables and lace, or the Fleuriste, which is a lot of lace too. And I was like, we're just going to knock out one more winter thing. Why not? Why not give it a shot? But that is all I have for you today, and no acquisitions. One thing I want to talk about before I end this video is I am considering hosting a knit along. I put like a post, I did a post on YouTube polling people, and I did a post and polled people on Instagram. and like not a bajillion people responded, but the response that I did get was pretty positive. I think it would be really fun to do a knit along that's for knitting like baby slash kids knits. And this is not any kind of announcement. I really like the idea of knitting for my future kids. Personally, I think it'd be fun. When I have kids and am pregnant someday, I don't want to feel like stressed about having to knit all these things I want to knit for them. Like maybe one or two things, but I'd like to like maybe get a head start on that. Plus, they're small and cute and take less yarn and they're a little faster. So it feels like a fun thing to do. And I wanted like a reason to do that. And I was talking to another knitter who kind of felt the same. I was like, well, why don't we all just do that? Why don't we do that together collectively? That's a great excuse. So this would be a cal for people who don't have kids, people who do have kids, people who have nieces, nephews, grandkids, best friend with a baby. Just a fun excuse to do kids knits specifically and open to literally anyone. Even if you don't think you're gonna have kids for years and years and years, and you're like, I don't know, 15. Like you can still knit a baby knit if you feel like it. Why not? So that is what I'm thinking about. I need to make the plans for it because I have not hosted a cal before. I'm going to do all the admin hopefully in this week, and maybe I'll talk about it more next week. But I'm just putting that out there that is something that I'm thinking about, and I hope that you'll consider joining if I manage to get this together, not if we manage to get this together. So yeah, that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Your support means so much to me. You can find me on Instagram at granola.gear. I hope you have a great day and happy knitting.